On this episode, we react to Sting going into the WWE Hall of Fame, talk about Becky Lynch's feud against Charlotte, Kalisto winning the US title, Mauro Ranallo commentating on SmackDown, your questions, and more now on Byte That. Hey gang, what's going on? You're listening to episode 125 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast, the place where we break down the latest happenings inside of WWE's Squared Circle. Thanks for tuning in and checking out the show. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, ByteThat.com, and for this, plus video content, reviews, wrestling gameplay videos, Ryan singing Tyler Breeze's theme, head on over to youtube.com/ByteThatCast. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and with me always, first off, Boston's own Ryan McNulty and the Canadian Dynasty, Keith Poshik. How are you guys doing?
Good. Doing great. Man,
Fantastic.
125. We are a quarter of a way to 200.
That is ridiculous.
How crazy is that? Yeah.
It's been almost 100.
Episode 100 feels like
think about
we're
this.
not really
It's been almost 100
our-
episodes since we killed you off.
The math doesn't seem right on that.
We're a quarter to 200 between 100 and 200.
Well, yeah,
25 is
between
a quarter
100
of
and
that.
200.
Yeah.
But we've already hit 100, so we can't hit that milestone again. So our next one would be 200, and we are a quarter of that way to the next milestone
You're
that way.
confusing me.
So many numbers. I'm here to talk about wrestling, not do math, Keith.
How about this? We only have 75 more episodes until
That
we're
is
at
so
200.
much easier to understand. So much easier. Okay,
Fine.
guys. We're
Y'all
about
puny
to break
brains.
the fourth wall here and Byte That. We're going to talk
All right.
about something related to SmackDown.
Is that
For,
really
like,
breaking
wait.
the fourth wall?
Hold
Almost,
up.
for us, I think.
What's SmackDown?
It's the other show that's not Raw that we barely
Impact?
talk about.
Does TNA put on SmackDown?
No, they could.
Does Lucha Underground?
No, but they could, but they would get sued. But the point is that
Okay.
something happened on SmackDown. It's not only that they are now on USA Network, which is the same network that Raw is on in the USA Network, but now they have a brand new play-by-play announcer. This guy, I know, Keith, you know a little bit more about him. Mauro Ranallo. This guy has done commentary for wrestling in Japan and other places, boxing. What else do you got with him, Keith?
He's done a lot of MMA stuff. That's where I'm familiar with him from. Did a bunch of Pride stuff, CFC, which is Canadian Fighting Championship stuff. And I've heard a bunch of his work before. And he's the new voice of SmackDown.
Yeah, what I did is I listened to a couple of his things outside of the WWE before I saw SmackDown, and his voice was very intriguing with me because we talk about so many times that the commentators don't seem to take the product that serious anymore, but here's this deep bassy, not bassy, bassy voice, and I was intrigued, and after watching SmackDown, there are some negative things that I don't think are necessarily his fault. But it's been a long time since I've listened to a commentator that can say something and it feels like they're treating it as a real thing.
I love his voice, just like you mentioned, the deep bassiness of it. I think it really helps selling what's going on inside the ring even more. Like, it adds almost a authoritative quality to the announcer. And so I have a friend that's a very big MMA fan, and he was telling me that he would always get criticized, he being Mauro, for being a little too over the top for MMA in places where it would almost feel like he's commentating a wrestling match just for how into it he's getting. So this seems like a perfect fit, and SmackDown was a good indicator of that as far as I'm concerned.
I was only able to catch like a couple of the SmackDown YouTube clips, but I specifically watched them to hear the new commentary. So I like that this new kind of direction for SmackDown. This can be a place where it's maybe they can borrow a bit from NXT and have it be like the wrestling fans' wrestling show, whereas Raw is supposed to be the show for everyone. So I think Mauro is a great person to kind of spearhead the commentary side of things, where it's treated like a sport. It feels like a sport when you're watching it. Like I said, I only heard bits and pieces. So the parts that I heard, I was a little like, I felt like you were kind of dipping back and forth between two sides when when the king would start, like the king and Byron were talking again, you'd feel like oh, we're kind of shifting between two tones.
It's like two products at the same time.
Yeah, but I mean, they're gonna it's gonna take time for them to kind of build that chemistry. But I don't know if it was there. I'm sure there were brighter spots than the parts that I heard. It was still like, oh, I'm listening to Raw for a second. Now I'm back to the serious commentary. So I think that they'll find a groove. I mean, this guy just literally came in and just started commentating SmackDown. Like, he wasn't down in NXT, as far as I know, prepping for a long time. I think he just got thrown right into the fire.
No, he did get some training.
Did he?
There were some things about him being in the performance
It all
center.
felt very quick,
Yeah, but this is a guy that has commentated wrestling. So
yeah, absolutely.
This is not his first
voice,
array.
There must have, there's probably something that I've seen. Did he commentate the
he commentated Wrestle Kingdom 9 or 8. He commentated a Wrestle Kingdom or Japanese wrestling show.
But you said he's done some UFC things. Or maybe
Pride. MMA stuff. Did a lot of Pride and CFC, which is in Canada.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what I've seen.
And some other stuff.
What I've heard him in, but his
with.
voice definitely sounded familiar, whether it was highlight clips or something.
Yeah. My one concern is that the WWE, and we talk about this not just about commentary, but the product as a whole, they got to make up their minds with the commentary team, because it is such a different style, whether it's better or worse, because it's one thing to have Raw have a commentary team, SmackDown have a commentary team, and NXT have a different style. But on SmackDown, you have Byron and King, who spoke way faster. They sounded way more just relaxed. But then you have Mauro, who's like super serious, over analyzing everything. When Charlotte was a heel, he was legitimately upset. But the rest of the commentary team was sort of, doing their usual WWE shtick, which is what we're used to. But then we get this new thing. And I mentioned this to you, Keith, yesterday. It's not that he's the next JR, but it's been a very long time since we've heard somebody in the commentary team that made the product feel better or made the product feel real, as opposed to just sort of having music be in the background for the sake of needing it.
It was nice to have the product sold in a meaningful way without having to use buzzwords and hashtags and what's trending on Twitter and that, like the wells they continually to go back to on Raw. It was a very nice feeling.
Can I say this? Is there any reason to have Byron Saxton on a commentary team? I've just realized I've been watching Raw with him on the commentary team for months, and I still don't even know if he says anything of value.
He kind of suffers from the point where I think that a 2-man commentary team is stronger than a 3, because really you need the play-by-play guy and the color commentator. The third guy really doesn't need to be there for any reason, so he gets lost in that shuffle because he's that third wheel on both shows.
But when we used to have JR, the King, and Coach, Coach had a personality that he brought to the table. Whether the three of them were annoying at times or whatever, you still felt like Coach kind of, you know what I mean? There was something, you got who he was, what he was about.
I think the reason is because they're trying to maybe groom Byron to be the next Cole. So he sounds like a Cole in progress.
A CIP.
CIP, man.
But no, that's true.
And the last little thing, he called wrestling moves by their names consistently. That is not something we're used to, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, you almost forget what that's like,
Yeah.
So there's still a way or a chance that can be integrated into the product. I'm super happy about that. Now switching to something that was announced just before Raw kicked off. We are on the road to WrestleMania. We have the Rumble very soon. Next week, we're going to be having our predictions show. But we have the first inductee into the 2016 Hall of Fame, and that is the man, the icon, Sting. The guy that we never thought would go into the WWE has had one of the worst WWE careers, if you think about it. But his career as a whole, obviously iconic. faced so many legendary superstars like Vader, Ric Flair, the list goes on and on, has been involved in the Attitude Era on the opposite side of the fence. And I want to get your guys' feedback. Much speculated. We thought this was going to happen last year. Maybe like he goes into WWE, boom, Hall of Fame. But now, after everything that's been happening, what are your thoughts?
I think it's really cool that Sting is going in. I mean, we knew it was all going to happen eventually. I do find it weird that Sting is going into the WWE Hall of Fame before The Undertaker. That's something I'm having a little trouble with because, I mean, The Undertaker is everything Sting is and way, way more as far from a WWE standpoint. So shouldn't he go in first?
I don't think it quite works like that. I think it's more of a, they like to do it at least when your career is wrapping up. And yes, there's a lot of speculation that Undertaker is probably ending his career this year, but that's not confirmed, even though it would.
So why not? Why not save Sting for next year then?
I don't know. Maybe Undertaker isn't done, but I think it's, and also you don't want to have, like you said, you don't want to have two guys headlining it, but you could have had Undertaker this year and Sting the next. But who knows? Maybe Undertaker has more years than we give him credit for. But I think it's when the career, except for like certain specific situations, I think, did Flair go in before he officially retired?
That was that same year, wasn't it?
Same year, yeah.
So it was like the day before he retired, he was inducted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, I'm sure there's a few other exceptions, but I think they generally like to have the guy's career wrapped up. And there's a very good chance that Sting is done. And I think this is even further indication that he's done. So that's the only reason. They used wording
when they were talking about the announcement. They used words pretty much sounding like Sting was done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that with my voice?
There's a very good chance.
The one thing I will say about this is that when you look at everybody that's been inducted into the Hall of Fame, we're getting to a point where there's not a lot left that's not necessarily active. I mean, we have Triple H, we have a couple of people that have to be inducted at some point, but The Undertaker, I think, is one of the last guys that you can't. Well, yeah, of course, but the mystique of The Undertaker being inducted is huge. It kind of like Macho Man. I mean, one of my biggest regrets is we never got to hear a Macho Man Hall of Fame speech. That was one of the things that I always wanted to hear. And The Rock can be inducted, a lot of people, but those guys don't stop talking. But The Undertaker being inducted is like this mystical thing where, is he going to be in character? Is he not? How is that process going to be? Is he going to be gone completely afterwards? Or is he going to be like the boogeyman popping in and out every now and then? So many questions there, but I am happy that Sting is going to be there. I mentioned it before. I watched way more WCW than I did WWF at the time. And Sting was somebody I always liked. I wasn't always the biggest Sting fan. I don't know why. Just the Crow character, the face paint was cool. I had all the action figures, but never really cared too much about his matches until I became an adult. But I'm happy it's happening. I am curious to see if anything is going to happen around that, or if it's just going to be straight up induction to the Hall of Fame and that's it. Or are we going to get a farewell match, some kind of segment? Because it seems odd to just have this career in the WWE where you lost, you get injured, Hall of Fame, and you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably more for his WCW legacy, and he gets the one WWE run just to say, hey, I was a part of WWE. There's been plenty of people in the Hall of Fame who never even wrestled in WWE, so that doesn't really matter as much.
Agreed. It's going to be interesting during the video package if they just cut out that entire TNA section. Like, oh, we went from WCW to
of course
WWE.
Hey, the W Boys took a 10-year sabbatical almost before they came back.
True.
Okay, guys. Now, something that was pretty great did happen on Raw. We had a title change. We have a brand new United States champion. Alberto Del Rio defended the title against Kalisto. I mentioned it before. I am a huge fan of Kalisto. I do think that WWE should capitalize on his situation. He is a super small guy. I dare say smaller than Rey Mysterio, both in just mass and size as a whole. And he defeated ADR with an upset victory. The crowd went pretty wild. The commentary team went crazy. Did you guys think this was going to happen on Raw?
It definitely came as a big surprise, but Kalisto is just a great example, and it's nice to see that a guy who really puts in the hard work and just goes out of his way to steal shows gets rewarded. You know, this guy has been kind of under the radar for a while just about how talented he is, and I think the whole TLC, that spot, like winning the breakout or not the OMG moment, I think it was.
Yeah.
OMG moment Slammy. I think that kind of told WWE that, hey, people are interested in this guy. It's clear that they've been building him slowly, like how they had him upset. He upset Ryback in the title tournament, right?
Yeah, and I love that. That was on SmackDown.
Exactly. So I think they've been trying to build him up. I hate to say as the next Rey Mysterio, but as the next Rey Mysterio. It's really cool, though, because, like I said, the guy's been working hard. He's super talented, and it's cool to see that get rewarded with a U.S. title.
I agree with everything you say there, Ryan, but to go on your Rey Mysterio point, they're leaning into that real hard, and Raw was a big indicator of that, to the point where he even brought up Eddie Guerrero in his promo.
Yeah,
they went
that
to
seemed
that.
a little. It's like, I know it's he is one of the greatest Latino wrestlers of all time, but it seemed a little weird that he just randomly.
It hit a little
up.
close to home, and then even when Alberto Del Rio was talking about Kalisto, he used to always call Rey Mysterio a chihuahua, and I'm gonna beat the little chihuahua and stuff like that. I don't know why I use that.
I love your
accent,
ADR voice.
I know, right? It's so good. But instead of chihuahua, he just used cockroach or whatever ADR said.
Mosquito, wasn't it, right?
Or mosquito, yes. Yes, the La Cucaracha. But I'm very happy that Kalisto's getting this awesome push, but I don't just want him to be Rey Mysterio too, and that's what makes me a little hesitant about the whole situation. I also think that we should just take a moment, pause, and say thank you to Sin Cara for basically dying for this to happen.
he died for Kalisto's sins.
Sin Cara can never catch a break, even when he's actually in a mildly successful tag team.
And even when he's a completely different person.
Yeah, just that name is tainted. The man without a face is not meant to be a baby face. That is so lame.
The thing is, it's like Kalisto, I mean, he's always going to get compared to Rey Mysterio because he's basically almost as small, if not small. He's smaller than Rey. Is that correct?
I think so.
I think so.
I've seen both live, and he looks noticeably smaller.
His mask does have some resemblance.
And he sounds like Rey. His voice sounds like Rey.
That's what I was going to say. And see, his voice, he does legitimately sound like Rey. Like, you could probably tell people if you just took all the names out and showed a video and asked a casual fan if that was Rey Mysterio, they might fall for it.
A couple of times I've actually seen on Facebook, whenever WWE posts a picture of Kalisto, people tweet or Facebook post, how did Rey get all his tattoos removed? And I thought they were joking, but you would see people put legitimate arguments. And I got a little upset at people just thinking somebody can casually do that without any repercussions. But I kind of get also why they bring up Eddie, because they maybe want to make things a little bit obvious for the kids that maybe did get the Rey Mysterio masks, which are still sold everywhere in Texas or anywhere that sells wrestling
yes, Rey
masks.
Mysterio's biggest market, Texas.
Yeah, and man, I went to Austin a couple of months ago, and there were thousands of Rey Mysterio masks, and that was this year. So they still sell. I mean, I have one with me right now. So there you go with that. But I'm looking forward to what happens here. It's gonna be. I'm curious as to if they're going to have a lengthy title reign, because it's been a long time since we've had somebody this short have a mid-card title. Because when Rey had all of this underdog situation, he was feuding with Mark Henry, all these huge guys, but it was the world title, or it was involving a possible WWE title run. But now we have, the U.S. title, kind of interesting with a Mexican wrestler.
Was Rey Mysterio ever U.S. champion?
I honestly don't recall right now. I know he was cruiserweight. He was world tag team.
Was he intercontinental?
Well, he was on SmackDown when the U.S. title was there.
Let's see here. Rey Mysterio. We have the internet, people. U.S.
Truth.
title. Let's see here. Rey Mysterio, I don't see him as U.S. champion.
That's
He
interesting.
battled for the U.S. championship against MVP at Armageddon, I think. Yeah, let's see here. Let me look at a picture here. But MVP retained there.
No,
MVP, man. That guy's still around.
I miss WWE MVP. But yeah, that's interesting that Rey Mysterio never won a mid-card title. It almost, maybe that's a differentiator, as in, like, they're telling the underdog story in the mid-card instead of just throwing it right up to the top.
And that's
Plus,
good.
they
I like
don't
the
have
fact
any
they're doing
cruiserweight
that.
title or anything now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because before, the whole thing was the cruiserweight champion can beat the WWE champion or world champion. It was like, it wasn't even considered to be a mid-card title. That was the lower card title when you compared things. So him going from cruiserweight to IC to world title wouldn't really make too much sense. So I get why they did that. But I like that they're doing that with this, because are they just going to feud now? And one thing that, Ryan, I got to bring up now, the League of Nations. What's up with that? Because, I mean, Alberto Del Rio was out there, but he didn't feel like he was part of a stable. It just felt like Alberto Del Rio when he came back. And even throughout this whole show, it just doesn't feel like it's a thing anymore.
Especially, I don't think Rusev showed his face the entire Raw. We're not even sure if he's injured. I tried looking it up. I don't know if I just...
He's actually sent a tweet before the show, not because we asked, but he mentioned that he's apparently on the road to India, on the way to India for a tour or a promo thing. So that's why.
Okay.
Or go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was going to say, that as far as the League of Nations goes, like, this is just a stable that I feel like has been screwed, like, since Jump Street, like, right from the get-go. That they just have never felt like they formed an identity together. It seems like they are just... It's just like a bunch... It's like 4 guys, 4 or 5... How many is it? Is there 4?
4.
Yeah, it's 4 guys who
You
are
don't even
all
know.
kind of just doing their own thing, and then maybe they help each other when it's written for them to help each other. It doesn't feel like they actually even care about each other.
But the name, League of Nations.
Yeah.
That sounds huge. Not just like 4 guys, especially Sheamus, a former world champion. Alberto Del Rio, former world champion. And then we have Rusev, guy that was, going
US
through everybody.
champion.
And then Wade Barrett.
Yeah. Wade Barrett.
It's
former Intercontinental champion.
It's almost like they kept the League of Nations together just so a certain superstar could just run a train right through them. And then that superstar got injured, so they're like, oh, let's pretend like this never happened.
No, it's kind of sad, though, because it's like we've got all these injuries, right? And when we saw the League of Nations happening, we were like, okay, this is kind of the solution to put a bunch of these guys on the fast track to being an important part of the show. And they could have had this faction as one of those pillars of, instead, I hate to just jump to Roman Reigns a little bit here, but it feels like everything or a lot of things on this show are centered around building one guy, and all these other people are going, like, kind of have to suffer for it. And then it's like, you built that one guy. Now he has nobody to feud with because everybody else was just sacrificed to build him.
No, and they don't have a mistake to them. I know I keep bringing that thing up with The Undertaker, but this whole Raw, as you mentioned, it was centered around Roman Reigns. And everybody else, once again, the name League of Nations, without seeing the guys, you think like, oh, these big badasses that are going to take over, but they're just part of this segment. Even the Wyatt family, everybody's sort of just dealing with this one superstar. Even the whole main event, even though Kevin Owens looked like gold, and I think that they are maybe possibly experimenting with how people like Kevin Owens, because he had twice the action this Raw, and I thought that they were going to just destroy Kevin Owens, considering that was the main event.
I can't say the entire show is just to build Roman Reigns, because there are people like Kalisto who are getting built up on their own, and Kevin Owens is another one of those guys. And even Dean Ambrose, they've been doing a lot better with, even if they made him look like a complete moron. Like, I gotta find Kevin Owens. It's like, he's out there fighting your buddy for 15 minutes. Why don't you just go out?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's annoying me. And I get injuries are happening. Remove the authority, okay? They're not there at all. Give me your top heel right now. Who's the top heel?
Kevin Owens, probably.
Kevin Owens or sort of Sheamus. But he hasn't... Like, you could say a month ago, Sheamus was the top heel. But right now, it probably is Kevin Owens.
I think there's a difference between top heel and good heels. I think those are your top heels. Sheamus would be your top heel. That doesn't make him a good heel.
No, and even then, when you look at Raw, and this is why I'm saying it's built up around Roman Reigns, the whole main event, everybody else, it seemed like they were irrelevant. They're there for the purpose of defeating this one person. But you're being treated as the pet for the authority, who are the top heels technically, but shouldn't we have like that equivalent evil person that we should dislike or hate? You know, that is because even Brock Lesnar came out to close the show, and even that sort of confused me a little bit more because he got like the biggest ovation and then he turned on the bad guys. So then I'm like, wait, so we have Roman Reigns who's a good guy, but then Brock Lesnar is going to be in the Rumble as a good guy. So who are we supposed to dislike?
It's kind of like the Phantom Menace or something. We don't have like a main villain or a main character. Well, Roman Reigns is the main character, but
yeah. Like,
we don't have the opposite to Roman Reigns' foil. I mean, I guess that's Triple H, right? But they got to keep him away. This is kind of the problem with Royal Rumbles in a way, especially with the title match being the Royal Rumble, is you can't just focus on one guy. And this is why everyone's kind of seems like they're just lost in the shuffle right now, is because they're all going to be in the Rumble, so they don't want to build too many programs that are going on, you know? So that's why it seems a little all over the place right now.
It's not even that, because even like Roman Reigns he's defending the title against 29 other people from a storyline standpoint. He should be watching his back. He should be like almost like isolating himself from everybody to make sure that he even makes it to the Rumble. But he's just this cocky, arrogant guy who smiled off an F5 to end the show. Like, that is such a weird
after he'd been
little decision.
Del Rio kicked,
just
Bro kicked.
Yeah.
Guys, it's true what we said last week. 1 week, we will say something positive about Roman Reigns' development. The next week, something happens, we go back. So next week, it's going to be great. And it's going to be nice because it's the go home show to the Rumble. So maybe it's going to be like that. But then the other thing, going to the Stephanie promo with Roman Reigns, right? So at one point, he just says, but what if I win? And that line to me just seemed completely out of place because, I mean, the answer to that is, well, you keep the title, I guess. I mean, you won the whole thing. But you're not threatened by anybody. You're just saying, so what if I win? You're not concerned about X or Y being in there.
You're writing the entire Rumble off already. Like, yeah, I'm going to win.
Exactly. Like, I want to care. I want you to feel threatened, not just by a female authority figure or the old guy that's coming back here threatening you. I want you to feel threatened by somebody that can actually punch you and knock you out, not the person that's not going to get in the ring and face you, because that's not fun for me, because eventually we're not going to get Stephanie versus Roman Reigns and we're not going to get Vince versus Roman Reigns. So why should I care about that when I can't see the payoff?
Because you're basically looking for a flaw in Roman Reigns because to make him relatable, right?
Yeah.
If Roman Reigns is even like somewhat nervous about defending his title against 29 other people, which he should be, because it doesn't matter how strong of a guy you are, if there's 10 other people in the ring and they all want to throw you out, guess what? You're going out. So you should be scared to lose your title. And I think that's part of the John Cena problem too, is, it's like the Superman issue where they're perfect in every way, so you can't relate to them, so you just don't care about them. But if you actually saw a flaw in them that would make them relatable, then you would be more invested. So Roman Reigns shouldn't just be brushing off everything, kind of like Cena does a lot of times. Actually be affected by something.
But I think it even goes beyond the John Cena problem, because if John Cena was put in a situation like this, he would come out, looked concerned, or even like cut a promo and say like, oh, we make jokes about the odds being stacked against John Cena, but he would make those comments like the odds are stacked against me on this one. Just none of that exists with Roman at all.
Those are some nice odds. Would be a shame if someone overcame them.
Oh man, things are getting deep in here. No, but I am concerned because Rumble aside, this show is not a bad Raw, right? But it did remind me we have an empty roster. Obviously, injuries happen. So a lot of this can't be directly contributed to, just creative or something. John Cena's out. Rollins is out. Randy's out. Cesaro's out. Sasha Banks may be out or something too, apparently. Like, the list keeps growing and growing. So the whole social outcast main eventing WrestleMania with Bodellas and all that good stuff dancing, that may be happening at some point, but we'll see what happens with that. But guys, before we go on further, because we do have more things to talk about the world of professional wrestling, we want to get to a couple of announcements. First of all, we hope you're doing great. Hope you iron your clothes properly. It's really important always.
Really? God, I really need to do that then.
Yeah. I don't even think I own an iron.
What?
I don't know. I fold my laundry when it comes out of the dryer and it doesn't wrinkle.
What? Like, okay, my mind is blown. How do you not? Okay, people, if you want to see videos,
I just go to work with wrinkly clothes, man. That's just how life is for me.
Okay, so I'm gonna contain my composure and get to the announcements. We have a YouTube channel in which this week, because Sting is gonna be inducted into the Hall of Fame, we're gonna talk about him. We're going to talk about the hypothetical scenario or what if Sting versus The Undertaker were to happen. The way they talked about Sting on Raw, it's almost as if he's done. But should that match happen, and if not, then what? We talk about that in our latest Squared Roundtable. Plus, we have 2 discussion videos that went up over the weekend. One where I talk about John Cena's injury, the breaking news story. And then the other one where we talk about Randy Orton. Ryan brings up the fact that he apparently doesn't need neck surgery, but he's still going to be out, and he's still going to be out until after WrestleMania. Things are getting really deep and dark in there. You can listen to Ryan singing Tyler Breeze's theme up in there pretty soon. Yeah, brother. He's going to be too sweet to be sour, doing a little bit of Macho Man impersonation. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and get
you look so happy about
that.
it.
Good.
I can't do the voice.
Ryan, okay, maybe you can't do the voice, but did you at least buy the cream? You got to get some of that cream.
You do.
I'll just take some from McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Good thing you said from McDonald's. Okay. Awesome, man. Well, you get some coffee in there. McDonald's coffees are not that great, but you get.
What? McDonald's coffee is great.
It's terrible. We pride ourselves in Puerto Rico with having some of the best coffee, and that tastes horrible. I'm sorry.
I'm curious if our McDonald's coffee is the same as your McDonald's coffee.
Ours is a little
small.
stronger.
Well, what are your Tim Hortons, all your Canadian serving sizes are too damn small, all right? A large coffee at Dunkin' Donuts.
Your sizes are too damn big. No wonder half your country is overweight. Jesus.
It is completely, but if you grow up used to all these portion sizes, you're just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, because we understand this thing called manageable.
Learn or moderation. Was that the word you were looking
or moderation.
for?
No, I meant manageable. Who needs a coffee that big? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody.
I do, because I sleep like crap.
See, we consume espresso coffee, which is way stronger than just the average coffee you guys get. So that's why our portions are like 8 or 12 ounces, because it is some strong coffee.
Well, that's espresso. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, speaking of espresso, we got to talk about Becky Lynch. I don't know how that one thing relates to the other, but she's always hyped during her entrance. So I'm assuming she drinks a little bit of coffee beforehand. Becky Lynch is freaking awesome. And non-jokingly, is one of the best developments WWE has going on right now in the product. When you look at her whole feud with Charlotte, we've gone from, 3-4 weeks ago, sort of making fun about the fact that Charlotte seemed a little bit weird as a heel. she's really getting to a good point. Her and Flair are complementing each other super well on SmackDown, what they're doing on Raw. And the fact of the matter is that they're building Becky Lynch in such a way that she is becoming one of the biggest baby faces in the company, not just in the Divas division, and a baby face that people really want to get behind. She's a great wrestler, great look, marketable, and she's badass.
Yeah, I mean, you summarized it all. She had an awesome promo. She had that awesome moment where she said, I'm gonna take your title and your arm, or something.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Just like, it was cool. Like, that backstage promo was excellent. You can just feel the passion behind it. There's a purpose to it. Like, this feud has been really well built, and it's benefited both Charlotte and Becky Lynch. Like, this feels like this is the stuff we want on the main roster with the women. Like, these are the type of feuds. And if we can get to a place where we have two feuds with the same amount of effort that's put into this one going on Raw, I think we can officially call the whoever started it, that Divas Revolution, a success. So this all the work that's been done in the past month and a half has been better than anything that's been done like since the Divas Revolution started.
You know, maybe I'm just a hater at this point.
Yes, you are.
Well, yes.
Continue anyway.
I don't know. Charlotte, it feels like Charlotte's just remaining stagnant, and it's more Becky Lynch feuding with Ric Flair. Like, Charlotte's real good at going off the lead that Ric Flair creates. She's very good at following Flair, but she still doesn't feel like she's standing out on her own to me at all. Like, Becky Lynch looks great, but why do you guys think that's good? I don't understand. Like, I go back to what I mentioned last week, where Ric Flair is the biggest attraction in the Divas division. That is not a positive thing.
But that's mildly okay.
I think Becky is getting there, though, as becoming the main attraction.
But if you take Ric Flair out of the equation, then Becky is just leagues above Charlotte at that point. So then you've just got the Becky Lynch show.
But it'll take time. I mean, they've only just, like, Ric Flair's only just recently been, like, side by side with Flair. And like we talked about before, where there could be an amazing moment for Charlotte when she decides to cast aside Flair, and then Flair is, like, you know, really upset about it or whatever. And then all the heat goes to Charlotte. So there's that time, but they've only, like, it's only been a couple months that they've had this partnership going on. So I think it's okay. And she has plenty to learn and plenty of time to get better.
I think one of the reasons that you have trouble with it, Keith, is that the format or the flow is very different than almost all the other feuds, because they planted Flair in there as the initiation for something long-term, which is pretty much what Ryan mentioned. At some point, people know it's already going to happen. Charlotte's going to get in way over her head. She's going to turn on Flair, who's then going to be a babyface. Like, go Becky Lynch, go. Charlotte's the ultimate heel. Or maybe what happens, you know, Charlotte turns on Flair because he becomes the heel, and then she becomes a babyface. But her character right now is that she needs Ric Flair to get over. Like, that is the whole premise there, because she needs to grow. Because then otherwise, what's the whole feud right now? It would just be the same BFF feud that we had with Mickie James and Trish Stratus, that we've had with Sasha Banks and Charlotte on NXT. It would be the same thing. Adding Flair to it, no pun intended, add some Flair to it.
Pun totally intended, man. Come on.
Of course, but I got to sell it. Keith? Are you good now?
Keith, you are also allowed to just not like Charlotte.
Yeah. I you guys make very valid points, but I just don't like...
You don't like her.
She shouldn't... Ric Flair should not be the lead in that relationship. Yes, I understand why, like, Charlotte's learning from him, learning all his ways, but Charlotte should be in front of Ric Flair, where he just plays off and accentuates. You just have to be carried
for a little while.
I guess, but at the same time, be Diva's champion? Like, Flair, at this point, Charlotte should almost be surpassing Flair as far as the dirty tricks, and then Flair is just there to make them a little dirtier, or, like, to accentuate what she's doing. This is getting dirty. Well, they call him the dirtiest player in the game. Woo!
Because here's another thing that we haven't even brought into the mix as a possibility. What if this is Ric Flair vicariously going through wrestling again through her daughter?
Hold on.
Wait.
Whoa.
Think about what you just said.
Hold the
You know what I mean, though.
Are we talking about the submission sorority
you know what
again
I'm talking
now?
about, though.
Oh my
You know
lord.
how I'm referenced, like, Ric Flair is living
Did you
through
mean
wrestling.
to say vicariously?
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Oh my
Sorry.
god.
No,
You said bi-curiously. That is so different.
It happened, Juan.
No.
This is your thing. This is your thing.
No! Oh, come on! I
Oh my
tried so
god.
hard.
All right, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, 2 weeks
Just
ago,
listen to the last 2 episodes.
Keith, yeah, whatever. Two episodes ago, Keith has a botch and says Chad and
can do
Gable
this.
instead
You can
of
do this.
Jordan and Gable. Then last week, I can't say Curtis Axel's name. I'm saying Kurt Ass and all this stuff. And now Juan, instead of vicariously, says that Ric Flair is bi-curiously living through Charlotte.
Oh, man.
Oh my god.
man.
I don't want to picture that
brother.
scenario, okay?
No.
Okay, so Ric Flair is trying to relive a different type of wrestling career through his daughter's wrestling career. And that
Yes,
is why
fair
he's manipulating her
point.
in such a way that she is wrestling like he does.
But why isn't she the front runner in that relationship then?
Because you got to give it time.
God.
It's got to marinate. You got to
Can
let
we not
them
say
ribs
relationship?
marinate.
This is just all getting weird.
Oh, get your mind out of the gutter.
Okay, this is clearly something that...
Let's just move on.
Yeah, we got to
We'll
let
come
this
back.
conversation marinate vicariously. Okay, so...
Marinating them juices.
No, okay.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about injuries for a couple of minutes here. And not just the injuries that we've had
Not
the past
just the
3
injuries
weeks
to
here.
your brain for listening to that last segment.
Yeah, kind of. But WWE is progressively getting more and more injured superstars in the roster. 2-3 months ago, we were joking about how many people were injured, and that is nothing compared to what's happening right now. Last week's podcast became irrelevant the moment John Cena got injured, because basically everything we talked about is like, well, Cena's gone. Now what? And now we're left with just thinking, who could come back? That's the big thing people keep asking. Who can fill the gap? And one guy that keeps coming up, because even he's tweeting about it nonstop, is Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan keeps saying, like, yeah, I'm training as if I'm going to make my return. Like, he's being blatantly obvious that he wants to wrestle again. And my question to you guys is that, given the situation, Roman Reigns is your champion, Brock Lesnar is over here as a tweener / babyface, no real defined heel role aside from the Authority. Where do you guys think Daniel Bryan would fit in here? If he were to ever wrestle again?
Give him his WrestleMania match with Sheamus, right?
19
I
seconds?
mean, it's how many years in the making at this point?
This would be, would this be a thrice in a lifetime too?
Yeah, it's got to be in the pre-show, though. You got to do a throwback.
Daniel Bryan, geez, where do you put him? You could put him against The Undertaker. That would be a cool match.
That'd be a hell of a match.
It would seem like a little bit of a weird pairing, but there was actually, I think the year that, one of the years that CM Punk, not CM Punk, I think it was the year with Brock Lesnar, where at one point before that match had happened, Undertaker actually requested to work with Daniel Bryan. So, I mean, that's a match that maybe could still happen, and I feel like would be interesting to see even without the whole streak thing, because that, I feel like that one wouldn't nearly be as important as if the John Cena Taker one. That's the one everyone wanted to see with the streak on the line. But Daniel Bryan Undertaker, just to kind of see that interaction, because it just seems so different, would be cool.
I think the more important point is just keep Daniel Bryan away from the main event, because there's no winning scenario as far as WWE versus fans go if you put him anywhere near the main event, because they can't. they can't really have Roman face Daniel Bryan and build him the way that they want to build him, because we're just basically going to get the same scenario that we were in almost exactly a year ago when it was Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns for the WrestleMania spot at Fastlane. This is a weird sentence, but Daniel Bryan coming back would be the worst possible thing for Roman Reigns' career.
No, it totally makes sense.
Just everybody would just throw Roman to the side and be like, Daniel Bryan, Daniel Bryan, Daniel Bryan, as far as the fans go. And then it'll slowly build up to the whole fan perception versus the machine perception.
I think the crazy situation here is that if Daniel Bryan came back, almost all of WWE would be back to where it was a little over a year ago. The feud would still be The Authority, Daniel Bryan, and then Roman Reigns over here trying to get the WrestleMania spot against possibly Brock Lesnar if he hypothetically won the Rumble. And it begs the question, why would that still be the case? Why can't it be, why can't Daniel Bryan take down this evil, a wrestler that's trying to take over the show? Which, as we mentioned earlier, is sort of the initial situation. Like, WWE is focusing so much on one specific storyline, one specific guy, that the rest of the product has changed a little bit, but not to the point that somebody can come in and be like, whoa, this is so different. Think about when Triple H came back in 2002, or when Stone Cold came back in the Eric Bischoff era. Things were different, but this is pretty much the same.
I mean, it's probably a lot more different than you think. It's been almost an entire year since he's wrestled, and maybe it's not that different. I don't know.
In the way of,
I'm trying to think.
In the way, as far as broad strokes go, it is exactly the same, like you mentioned.
The only difference is like Kevin Owens is around.
Yeah, but the feud, if Daniel Bryan came back, we would have the same feud. It would be The Authority. You can already picture it. The Authority would go, oh, Daniel Bryan, you're back. You're supposed to be injured. What are you going to do? Win the title so we have to strip it off of you again? Ha, 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 ha. Oh, my God. Daniel Bryan wins the title. So somebody has to either turn heel, or then they try to buy in Roman Reigns, or they stall until Rollins comes back. Yeah. And I don't like that. I don't like that.
Or what if they put him just back in the intercontinental scene and have him try and do what he tried to do before, where he wrestles only on SmackDown and elevates the title?
Honestly, I think that's the best thing that they could do if Daniel Bryan came back. Just keep him away from the from the main event, and just work with people on the mid card, put together great matches, and just like,
or at least keep him away from the main event until he kind of gets his bearings being back in WWE. And if,
well, not even then, just make Daniel Bryan would be a great way to make the show more than just the one-trick pony. It really is right now. Like, that you can, almost in the same way that the John Cena US Open Challenge is, that you always have something to look forward to. You have that consistent segment, and Daniel Bryan can really bring that to the table in a way that really nobody else can on the roster.
And you can always, like, later down the line, assuming he's back full-time, you could always mix him into some title feuds. You could throw him in a world title feud at like some of the pay-per-views, even if he doesn't win it. He can kind of get the mix in with the main event scene.
I still think that's a slippery slope, putting him anywhere near the title from a fan perspective.
It depends. I mean, if you had a heel champion who was, in different feuds or whatever.
But what happens if he doesn't win?
Then he doesn't win. There's plenty
I don't think it's that simple, though. People are nuts when it involves Daniel Bryan.
I don't think it's the same
riot.
When it's like, if it's a heel champion versus Daniel Bryan at, like, let's say a Survivor Series, and like let's say Seth Rollins is the champion and he retains, then yeah, everyone's gonna hate and riot at Seth Rollins, and that's great.
Yeah, I think D-Bry is in the same category as Bayley, where they're such a big babyface that they can afford to take losses if they did. Like, I think the issue here and the thing that you may be having is that we already saw him become champion and be stripped away. And sadly, that story is amazing. Like, that ending there is a movie ending. So anything after is like an unnecessary deleted scene. And I think that's why, like, just any involvement in the world title scene, like, what do you do with him? Like, he already won at WrestleMania. He won 2 matches at WrestleMania, one of them being against Triple H. And he was supposed to be, like, injured, almost not able to compete. How do you top that? How do you do something different that is even equivalent of that? I honestly don't see that.
No, I don't think he's going to have that type of moment again. I'm just saying if you have a long-term heel champion, he's one of those guys you could throw into the mix during his run.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But do you guys think he will? I know this is going to be more for next week, but since we're talking about him, Royal Rumble, yay or nay?
I do not think he will.
Very nay.
Yeah, agreed. So, guys, we do want to plug quickly before we get to the questions. We talked a little bit about Randy Orton this past weekend. We actually talk about his whole career, or basically up until like Viper, Apex Predator, over on the channel. We have a Spotlight 2-part series. We'll make sure to post it in the description. But yeah, we talk about all of that. You know, Randy Orton is somebody that when he comes back, he could do something different. And maybe even IC title or something. We'll save that conversation depending, because we still got a couple of months before the Viper comes back. But something that is happening right now is your questions. And remember, you can send them over to bytethatcast@gmail.com or on Twitter, bytethatcast, using the hashtag AskBT, or by leaving a comment right here on this video. We'll make sure to read it and put it on next week's agenda. So, Mr. Poshik, what are people asking?
Well, they asked us a lot of things, Juan, and first of all, thank you all for the questions. We got a fair amount of questions this week asking if we think there are going to be any surprises for the Rumble, or basically a bunch of Royal Rumble-related questions. Next week's the Rumble, which means next week's predictions, so we're going to save that for next week. Thank you for all the questions, and I guess we'll see you this time next week.
Yeah, so thank you for watching.
Moving on. Exactly.
You made it sound like you were
It seems like no questions this week. We're done.
Yep.
We're done.
Hang it up. We're done. I kid. Because Barnaballs has a question.
Balls.
And the Balls wants to know, do you think that there is a chance of Kalisto competing in a singles match at WrestleMania 32?
Absolutely. There's a chance. If he stays U.S. champion, I'd say there's a very good chance. If he doesn't, I can actually see him unfortunately getting kind of thrown in the mix of like an Andre the Giant Battle Royal or something like that. But I'm hoping for more, so hopefully he stays as U.S. champ.
Historically, the mid-card titles have been thrown into pretty much everything except their own match. But I do think that Kalisto has an opportunity to do something really special at WrestleMania, and I hope he has a really lengthy title reign. So give him a big opponent, even a temporary. This is where he can fit a part-timer that is maybe way bigger than him, that he can overcome, letting you know that the ride is just beginning. So yes.
Last year at WrestleMania, they had a mid-card championship ladder match. Think about that, and then think about the OMG moment of the year. And I think that pretty much says if Kalisto is champion, it's going to be a ladder match, probably a multi-man ladder match of some sorts. So if he does have a match at WrestleMania, I think that's where he will be put. Even if he isn't champion, and they'll probably have that mid-card ladder match again. I hope so, because that was a good match.
Poor body.
Yeah, well, he kind of made his own bed with that OMG moment of the year, really. But I guess we will see. So thank you, Balls, for the question. Our next question comes from Cody Collier, who also has a question about Kalisto. And he asks, who would you like to see Kalisto feud with as United States champion, and why?
I would love to see him feud with somebody from the Wyatt family, or Kevin Owens, something like that, but not a one-trick pony. I want to see like a couple of shows, but somebody like that you can do like the Rey Mysterio, Mark Henry, somebody that is so much bigger and powerful than him that he's got to get progressively more creative in each match. So like a Luke Harper, this is where you put Luke Harper on the map again, and instead of just being the lackey in the Wyatt family, you can put him on the spot there for that title.
My choice would be to kind of go in a different direction than Juan and turn up the dial on the flippy Shiat and do Neville versus Kalisto for the U.S. title.
Whoa. Could gravity even handle that?
I don't know, and that's why I need to find out.
Indeed. I agree with Juan on this one, but to turn it up a notch in that respect, Braun Strowman. Just give Braun Strowman some sort of feud at this point.
I could totally see that happening too. Like that could be the modern day Rey Mysterio Big Show.
Totally.
You sold me on that.
Yeah, and it'd just be nice to see Braun Strowman have a highlight in some sort of feud, because since his debut, he's been in the background. I think it's about time that Braun gets a little bit of the, while still in the Wyatt family, a little bit of limelight himself.
How would Kalisto even hit him?
That's what makes the feud interesting. It would be like chopping down a tree, the big Braun Strowman tree. So make that happen, please. And thank you for the question, Cody. Our next one comes in from Adam V, who asks, what is your least favorite stable ever?
Is the League of Nations an option?
I mean, it's a stable. Well, it's let's put in quotations. Stable.
I would say they're too new or underdeveloped to be a good answer. Like a stable that's really had a run.
I'll just say my answer: Los Boricuas. No offense.
Really?
Juan. Yeah.
They
were useless. Favorite? Yeah, they were completely useless. Even in the Attitude Era, they were just the guys that got hired to beat somebody up once in a while and got beat up the rest of the time. They served no purpose.
What about the Mean Street Posse?
Well, you know what? They had more of a purpose than Los Boricuas because they were Shane McMahon's
I generally
stooges.
like stables, so I'm trying to think of one that I actively did not like.
I have the real solution here. I mean, the core. Because how do you take the Nexus that was the stable for so long, and you have basically the same characters, you have the same people, but on SmackDown, and you can tell this is just not working at all. Like the whole thing, I don't know if it was Ezekiel Jackson's fault. I don't know what happened there. You put these guys on SmackDown, and it was a failure from day one.
Poor Ezekiel.
And all of their theme music probably didn't help.
Yeah, God, they had more themes than like The Undertaker in a short amount of time. I feel like we're not thinking about it too much, but I feel like WCW is a gold mine for this question.
Yeah, I mean, if we can talk about the MIA, with G.I. Bro and all of that, but those stables, as bad as they were, they had some like 2% value worth of entertainment. I'm actually pulling up right now some of the worst stables in history. I'm just curious as to see what comes up. The Core, Planet Jarrett. Oh my God.
Oh, Planet Jarrett. God. Oh, brother.
The Dungeon of Doom, The Flock. I'm just going to say these quickly, see if anything comes up.
The Flock wasn't too bad.
Yeah, okay, let's be honest. The Flock, it was a cool idea that WCW never capitalized. Job Squad, True. Millionaires Club. Okay, that is up there. Millionaires Club. Yeah. SEX on TNA.
Oh my God.
Sports Entertainment Extreme was kind of awesome. No, I don't agree with that.
So we have 7 more. Spirit Squad.
Yeah.
I thought Spirit Squad was good.
Yeah, Spirit Squad, I enjoyed them.
They were all really talented and they did what they needed to do.
I love the concept that Vince McMahon's hitmen were a bunch of male cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right? 6, Immortal. That was a faction in TNA consisting of Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, basically a very low budget NWO, if you think about it, kinda.
Man, X Factor, they sucked too.
They were the next one on this list, X Factor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Alliance was pretty bad, let's be honest.
Yeah,
the whole invasion
The Alliance
thing.
is another good one.
The New Day, what?
What? Oh, this is probably before. When was this
probably
list
an
made?
old list.
Let's see here. It talks about 2015. The picture's not too old, but
but they were around the beginning of 2015.
True. Okay, so 2 more left. NWO Hollywood, NWO 2000. NWO 2000 was pretty bad. Out of this, the Millionaire Club and maybe
the New Blood
Alliance
even
for me.
And you could almost even partly say like DX 2006 was kind of cringy at times, but they probably aren't close to the worst.
And it was more of a tag team than a stable, really.
Well,
That's true.
remember they added Hornswoggle into the mix at some point, and that would make it a
they're
stable.
Still probably more of a tag team.
Indeed.
Man,
there's been
it got us to pull a top 15, so
yeah,
that's never happened before.
Yeah. And let's use the word top loosely here.
The bottom 15.
Indeed. So thank you, Adam, for the question. Our next one comes in from NKBE1324, who wants to know if he's the only person that thinks the Social Outcast theme is very similar to the Hardy Boys, at least the beginning.
I'm not making that connection.
Is it up on YouTube?
See here. This episode, we're doing things live.
This is like fact
checking. But I legitimately don't even remember their theme.
Yeah, we listened to it once.
I feel like some real talk needs to happen where there comes a point where you realize that the iconic Hardy Boys theme is just a generic production song. Like I remember back when Spike TV was real huge, that theme was plastered all over
Crash
Spike
Holly's
TV.
Theme.
Yeah, Crash Holly's theme. It was so it wouldn't surprise me for a second if their theme at least borrowed from it.
Give it a second, people. Ryan is enjoying. He is listening to music that we legally cannot play here.
Yes.
Otherwise, this episode
it's just
won't
a clip
happen.
from Raw, but I can definitely see what you mean. It does for sure sound a little bit like the Hardy Boys theme.
I like it from what I remember hearing from it. I'll have to give me a couple weeks because they have the tendency to change themes after the first week. So odds are this theme will change somewhat next week, and then for the next month or so.
Didn't they not even upload the Social Outcast theme to the WWE YouTube channel?
Yeah, it gave me a headache.
Literally, just what I listened to was somebody clipping it from Raw, and it's 20 seconds, and you can hear Byron Saxton talking. So,
nice.
But I did get to hear the beginning of it.
High quality investigating right there.
For context, though, before Raw started, they uploaded their Titantron on the WWE Fan Nation channel, right? But they put it up with the 3MB theme, but it was the Heath Slater version. So think about this. It was a new stable of 4 people whose theme song was a 3-man band's theme song that later became a 1-man band, but the theme song still said 3-man band, and then it was a theme song for a 4-man stable, and the song still said 3 people. So we have the new Funkasaurus theme, people. This is the new one. The 3MB theme must live on somehow. Give it to Hornswoggle. Give it to somebody.
It just kind of goes to show how much care and effort they put into the Social Outcast.
Hornswoggle was just suspended, right?
I think so.
Not
I
released.
think so.
Yeah, I think he's still with the company.
It was good. It was good.
WLC was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We had a good string of pre-show matches there. But nonetheless, thank you, sir, for the question. Our next one comes in from Joe K, who asks, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I asked on the podcast why Vince McMahon doesn't go on Raw since he's so over and it would make the product better. You guys answered that WWE can't use Vince because they need to be able to get out of the holes by themselves without using Vince. And if he were to come back on TV, it would be a bit of a sellout. Since Vince has been on TV lately, would you guys consider the WWE to have sold out by pulling the Vince card? Thanks.
As good as it's been with Raw, and Vince has been pretty good, it is kind of going back to the well when desperate times called for it. The ratings were really low. Roman Reigns wasn't getting over, so they went with their fail-safe and brought in Vince McMahon. So even though it is good, it shows that they are a little too reliant on Vince. So great question. It's cool to see, follow
us
through.
Being held accounted for.
Yes, we have to stick to our guns here. And like I said, it's good stuff. But yes, it does seem like you can't be too reliant on it, which they are.
I feel pretty much the same way because as cool as it was maybe the first 2 weeks, by now, especially this Raw, it just feels like Vince is a part of the product. Like the whole mystique or appeal of Vince McMahon is on Raw, people like, wow, look at this. Now it's just, well, it's the Authority. He's taking Triple H's spot because the Authority is 2 people, not 1. So I do think it's going back to the well. And as I mentioned throughout this episode, it's cool now, but I would like to not like a wrestler, not somebody that can no longer wrestle.
Exactly. For right now, I think it's a case of desperate times call for desperate measures. The roster's a little thin right now, and they kind of need that failsafe. So I get why Vince is around. Would I preferred if they went in an opposite direction and kind of relied less on Vince McMahon? Absolutely, but I can understand why he's around right now. And hopefully it's just a temporary thing. Like, do you guys think that Vince McMahon will be around after WrestleMania? Probably not.
No, I doubt it.
Indeed. So I guess we will see. So thank you, sir, for the question. Our next one comes in from Brian, who asks, do you guys think all the D-Generation X members will go into the Hall of Fame twice? Once for being in DX and the other for being individuals.
Well, see, in there you listed China. So China's just out. Like, straight up.
That's never happening.
Will not be inducted.
She won't be in there once.
Yeah, it's very unlikely. But everybody else, I think X-Pac will probably get inducted as part of DX.
Yeah, let's hold on. Real talk.
Here we go.
Everybody else will get inducted twice.
If X-Pac goes into the Hall of Fame for being an individual, somebody done messed up. Somebody done messed up real bad. Like, yeah, I know that you could play the Coco Beware card.
Or the Rikishi card.
Come on, really?
Okay, I got to interrupt the interruptee. If he goes in twice, it's not going to be as individual in DX. It's going to be DX and X Factor. Come on, guys. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. It's going to be DX and One Night in China. Those are going to be
I don't want to see that highlight video.
No. HBK and Triple H are shoo-ins for two-time Hall of Famers without question. There's a very good chance that the New Age Outlaws get inducted.
They won't go in individually either.
No,
Billy Gunn and Road Dogg will go in as the New Age Outlaws.
Yes, exactly. And then
HBK,
X-Pac. Triple H, X-Pac, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn all will get inducted as part of DX, and China will be left out in the cold.
There wasn't even a period at that end. It was just cut off in the cold, and that's it.
And that's it.
You pretty much said that, yeah. I agree completely.
Yeah. No, I also agree. All right, good talk. Thank you, Brian, for the question. Our next one comes in from Philly Chili Evans.
PCE.
Team PCE.
Yeah. Well, Team PCE asks, could the WWE focus more on the sport aspect without being a total failure like the XFL? Kind of hitting a home run there, but also, what are your thoughts on the Power 25? Could it be incorporated based on wins or losses to make them seem like they matter? Philly Chili has a bit of an idea. Basically, 10-15 minute matches could be one fall to a finish or Iron Man, and that could incorporate into a Power 25 standing. 2 points for a win, 1 for a draw, 0 for a loss. And that way the 1 and 2 people could face off for a championship. How would this work? Would it work? Would it just be too hard to manage? Can the creative team even handle it? What are your guys' thoughts?
I think you mentioned it right in your post. Would it be too hard to manage? I think the answer is probably yes. Maybe you could do something on a smaller scale. I think didn't TNA do something like this?
TNA pretty much did a point system like that.
They had the Bound for Glory series or something like that.
And people had trouble keeping up with that.
And it was a total cluster F from what I heard. I don't watch TNA, but that's what I've heard from other like reviews that I've, of TNA and things like that. I think if you really did something on a simple, small scale, like maybe you had a US title kind of series or something like that, where you did sort of like a round robin tournament with points and things like that, maybe, but it would have to be very simplified and probably only involve like 4 people or something like that, which I don't know, round robin with 4 people would just be 2 different matches. I don't know. You know what I'm saying though, is maybe each they all face each other individually like 3 times and there's like a point system. But I think respecting a Power 25, it gets it gets difficult because maybe sometimes they end up booking themselves into a corner where they have to do something they don't want to do, or somebody else is tied up. It gets really wishy-washy, and
how do you like work injuries into there?
Yeah, exactly. It can get really messy, and it makes them it forces them to commit, and WWE doesn't like to commit.
And there's the problem here is that there's a reason that tournaments exist, like King of the Ring. Simple. Brackets. People win, people lose, and they progress. Because people don't consume wrestling as a sport. You know, Ryan, for example, I mean, you're probably the best example. You know, you watch NFL, you keep up, you know which teams are winning, you can estimate things like that. That doesn't happen with wrestling. Somebody can be pushed one week, and then next week they're completely off. So how do you apply a point system, all of these things as a sport when we know that wrestling is fairly inconsistent, primarily WWE, because that's the real example here. It's cool in theory for a one-night event. If you have like a King of the Ring, where for one night you have whatever point system you want to have or brackets that are overly elaborate, but it starts and ends at that night, I think that's fine. But anything that's longer than a night, I think it's going to be too much.
I think you could go longer than a night, but like I said, it needs to be segmented in its own little circle, and it needs to be very easy to understand. And also having something like this with like a point system for the world title, it limits your storytelling. Maybe you can't tell the story about a guy like Daniel Bryan who loses a bunch of matches but then wins the big one.
Exactly.
You know, if he's not getting points, then he's never going to get the title shot.
Nobody's going to be an underdog. So they have to have
the guy keep winning.
Yeah,
it also forces it forces them to do like real finishes to matches, and you know they don't like that.
No kidding. You need your own point system just for...
What would be the DQ? What's the point system for a DQ? And just everybody ends up with 0 points or something,
exactly.
You know?
No kidding. Plus, wrestling, especially the WWE, is a business that gets heavily scrutinized for politics and choosing favorites and that kind of stuff. To give a literal point system where people can be like ranked and placed in by like how favorited they are in the company seems like unnecessary ammunition that can totally be used against them.
I didn't even think of that angle where it's like, oh, you're going to give Alberto Del Rio 10 points, but you know, Kevin Owens only has 8. And it's like, that's like, you can direct, it's giving even the wrestlers themselves direct like measurement against competition about how their wins and losses have been lately.
Yeah, it makes
helps
people
them
look really
keep
bad.
track of it.
And the most important part here, nobody looks legitimate as they can just go up and win a title. Imagine you have somebody that comes up from NXT, or do we just have somebody out of nowhere show up, right? Like I
think
want
about
the title.
Kalisto. Think about Kalisto's story, how he won it out of nowhere, got the title match, boom. That wouldn't something like that just
But
wouldn't
imagine
happen.
they're cutting like this insane promo, right? Like putting themselves over for the title. Oh, but I have 0 points. It's going to take me like realistically, it's going to take me like 9 months to get the title. So I should shut up now. Like it basically cancels out whatever they can say.
Yeah.
Interesting conversation there.
Interesting conversation. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, for the question. Our final question of the show comes from Joe Brown. And I'm assuming not the judge, but if you are, hello. I enjoy your daytime talk show, judge show, whatever those shows are called.
That.
But nonetheless,
the
question is court show. Thank you. Thank you. I was always Judge Judy, but...
Yeah, Judge Judy for the win, man.
Question. Joe Brown asks,
Judge Judy guy.
Indeed, I am. I'm going to leave that to kind of swirl around in your minds. Nonetheless, Joe Brown asks, hi, love the podcast. Thank you. Do you think that bringing back some of the old championship belts, such as the World Heavyweight title, WWE Championship, or maybe both sets of tag team belts, would make SmackDown and the pay-per-views more interesting and help superstars that are not getting enough time on air or stuck in NXT to reach their potential?
I don't think you need to add any more titles to do that. I think the original concept they sort of had with Daniel Bryan in making the Intercontinental title kind of the SmackDown championship, and it's only defended on SmackDown and pay-per-views. I think that's one way to go with it. I think they have the exact right amount of titles to have in the company right now. The roster is not nearly as big or as deep as it was when there was a brand split. So right now, it's perfect the way it is. Just put more emphasis on one of the championships on SmackDown.
Yeah, agreed. It doesn't need more titles. Just if John Cena can go down to the U.S. title and make that meaningful, why is that gone, right? Or why is that even an option of it not being there? You have Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Kalisto. The mid-card division is more developed than the main event division if you think about it, and that's great because then whoever comes up from that is going to seem so much better than rather than just going up for the main title. So keep doing that consistently and have meaningful storylines happen in that, not just retaining, but get really personal in there.
Exactly. Wrestling shouldn't live and die with championship belts. They should be the main thing, the headline, but there should be strong feuds and stories that don't have to involve championship belts. So adding more belts into the picture shouldn't, I don't think would help that at all.
Yeah, so thank you for everybody for the amazing, amazing questions. A lot of really, I love these type of questions that make us question different logic or procedures that can maybe be applied to wrestling. So keep things like that coming. We will be having the Royal Rumble predictions episode next week. So if you send us questions, keep in mind we are going to by default talk about, special appearances, who we think is going to win. So anything else, definitely Ask BT is the hashtag for Twitter. And for everything else, Mr. McNulty is now going to soothe you with his sexy, delicious, minty voice.
Yeah, soothe me, baby.
Alrighty, well, we want to thank you guys. My smooth voice.
That's
it's so
not
smooth.
Very smooth.
Thank you guys for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. Remember, you can check out our YouTube channel for tons more content. That's youtube.com/Byte That Cast. Like we said earlier, I put up a video talking about Randy Orton not needing neck surgery. A lot of people were worried that his career could be over, but I give more details on what he said and where I think, the future lies for Randy Orton. Juan also did a video kind of analyzing the situation with John Cena's shoulder injury and him missing WrestleMania, so you can check that out as well. This Thursday, the first inductee in the 2016 Hall of Fame, we talk about him on an SRT about what would go down with him and The Undertaker at WrestleMania. What the hypothetical situation, will it ever happen? We give our whole take on that conversation over on the YouTube channel this Thursday. For social media, our Twitter is @ByteThatCast. Our Facebook is /ByteThatCast. On Instagram, you can check us out at you can check us out at Byte That.
Almost there,
I was
baby.
doing so good too, man. And we're on Wrestling Amino as well at Byte That. For everything else, you can go to our main website, ByteThat.com. So thanks for listening once again. We'll catch you guys next week for Royal Rumble predictions. Woo! Which is also during the NFC title game. What the hell's that, man?
What's that? I don't even know what that is.
It's the game, the 2 games before the Super Bowl.
Oh.
And usually they're smart, man. They know to do it the week of the Pro Bowl because the Pro Bowl sucks. It's just all the scrubs who didn't make the playoffs all go to Hawaii.
What's he talking about?
I'm talking about football, okay?
Oh.
So the NFL started a week later than they normally do, and WWE probably couldn't adapt because they probably had the Royal Rumble booked and ready to go. And it screwed everything up. All right,
Wow.
Some of you out there care, and don't listen to these guys, okay? It feels bad, man. It feels really bad.
We love
but
you,
at
Ryan.
least I get to watch the AFC title game before the Royal Rumble. /rant. See you guys next week.
No. Okay, yeah, we're good. We're done. Bye.